Piper. As you can see, she's got the red tail. Some of these feathers are still growing in. Piper's 2.5 years old. She's a female, we think, based on her weight. She weighs about 1,250 grams today, which is a little over, right around 3 pounds. She doesn't like speaking engagements either. So. I'm going to walk around so y'all can see her, and afterwards, if anybody wants to come up and ask any questions or take any pictures, you're welcome to. You can see how sharp her talons are. That's why I have the glove on. Dennis has got a kestrel, or what we call a sparrowhawk in South Georgia. And he can actually, Sweet Pea can be on his hand without any glove. She's got talons, and they feel like little needles, but they can't really get you too bad. This box I had her in is called a giant hood. If you've seen any of the National Geographic programs or anything like that where they hunt with the falcons, they'll have a hood, a little hood they actually put over their eyes. A lot of times it'll have feathers or something on top of it. And the guys that hunt with the peregrine falcons and the gyr falcons, they'll have hoods. Red tails, in my experience, they don't really like it. They'd rather just be in the box. The box cuts off all the light. When they get in there, it's dark. They enjoy being in the dark. You put them in there and it's like timeout. They get quiet, they get still. I mean, she's been up here the whole time. She hasn't made any noise. She hasn't bounced around like she's doing now. They get most of their sensory input from their eyes. So if you put them in the dark, that shuts everything off. I have a lure, and I'm not going to pull it out now. It's a long leather bag with a rope. We have to use that sometimes when I need her to come back to me if it's getting late in the day or hunting, or if she's getting into a bad situation, that's kind of a dangerous situation, I can pull it out and swing it, and she knows whenever I pull that out that she's going to eat good. I'll put a large piece of meat on it and show it to her. And usually I've trained her to come, when I blow 2 whistles, she'll come to the lure. And usually wherever she's at, if she hears those two whistles, even if I've lost sight of her in the trees, she comes darting from wherever she is. And you heard when she was bouncing around, she's got bells on her anklets. These are very camouflaged birds. They're around all the time, but most of the time you don't see them because they're up in the trees. And with this color pattern, looking at them from underneath, the white on the chest is like the sky, and looking at them from the top, they're brown on the back. So if you see them flying in the trees, a lot of times they kind of disappear when you see them go into the edge of the trees. I wear a hunting vest that I've got some pictures of, and then the other thing you've got to have is somewhere to go hunt. You don't have to have a large, hundreds of acres, but you need to have 5 or 10 acres so you can get around. And I've got plenty of people that invite me to go up to their house over on Walker and catch squirrels, but the city wouldn't like that very much, and their neighbors probably wouldn't like it if she flew across the yard. So. This is the hawk house that I've got in my backyard. It's 8 by 8, and then there's a dog pen on the outside. We call that a weathering area, where she's got somewhere that she can get out in the sunshine in the late afternoon and get some sun and some rain. Everything we do with these birds is positive reinforcement. You don't do anything. You can't yell at them. You can't whip them or anything like that. It's all food. They respond to food. When I first trapped her, until the time I was hunting, took about 5 weeks. She was fully grown when I trapped her. She was born probably in April or May of 2013, and we trapped her in October. These birds are fully grown this size by about 8 weeks. So, like I said earlier, we just control her weight. When I trapped her, she was 1,365 grams. And she was completely full. When I trapped her, hawks have a crop in their chest that'll actually swell up when they're full. It's kind of a first pass for the food to go into, and then it passes from there over into their digestive system. And hers looked like a baseball. I mean, it was out tight. So I had to bring her weight down. And for the first 4 days, she didn't eat a thing. I'd get her out, I'd hold her, and she would just look at me. She would do this, but she also had her mouth open, just looking at me. She's never attacked me. She has gotten me a couple of times. This glove doesn't go all the way up to my shoulder, so she has gotten that on my forearm before. One time I had some blood from a piece of meat on my finger. She had already eaten the meat, but she saw it and she tried to reach down and grab it. But for the most part, she's trying to get away from me, and she's trying to get away from everybody. When she's baiting, when she's jumping off, she's flying this way away from everybody. So we start to bring her weight down till we get to a reasonable place where she wants to eat. And after 4 days, we had gotten there. She got down to about 1,200 and about where she is now, but 1,230. And she got hungry. She started eating some little tidbits, some little pieces of chicken gizzard. Once she would eat it off of a stick, which I've got a picture of in a minute. That's her when I brought her home. That's how she looked at me. Just like, what are you? And I'm going to get you. I didn't put my fingers up next to that beak. I knew better than that. So that's a bamboo skewer with some chicken on it. And the first day she didn't touch it. The picture on the right is her after 4 days. Once she starts to learn that you're not a threat and that you've got food, she suddenly becomes interested in maybe paying attention. So she ate food off the glove, and then she ate food off the bamboo skewer, and then I moved her onto a perch, and I would stand there with the glove, the food in the glove in front of her, and she would reach out and get food off the glove. And then as the days went on, I moved further and further away from the perch until she had to jump to me, and then she had to fly to me. The video on the left was done, and my wife hates me to show this video. I apologize. The room is dirty. This was about a week after I had trapped her. It's pretty quick. I was trying to hold my glove and hold her, but I did that inside. So in case she decided she was going to veer off to the left or the right, she would go land over on something else and she wouldn't be up in the trees. The video on the left is a week later. This is about 2 weeks after I trapped her. And this was about 25 or 30 feet. When you first take them outside, you have them on what you call a creance, which is just a string laid in the grass attached to the feet. And you extend the distance further and further every day until I got to about a little over 100 feet. And then you fly at that distance for a day, and then the next day is the most stressful day of my life, I think, of anything I've ever done, because you bring her outside and you attach her to the creance and you fly her across the yard a couple of times, and then you go over and you unhook everything. And she doesn't realize she's unhooked from everything, but then you walk 100 feet away and you call her to her, and she might fly to you, or sometimes they might head the other direction. If she heads the other direction, there's nothing I can do. She's gone. So after she was free flying that distance, then it was time to go hunt. When we take them out and hunt, they're not attached to anything. You can see in the picture these leather straps on her feet. That just allows me to control her when I have her on the glove. And those stay attached to her feet, but that's the only thing she's got, and it's not attached to anything. We walk out into the edge of the woods, and you let the bird go, and they'll fly up into the trees. And if anybody's been hunting with dogs before, hunting squirrels or whatever, you're the hunter and the dog's chasing the squirrels and getting them to move. Well, in this case, the roles are reversed. She's the hunter and I'm the dog. I move through the woods, shaking on vines, slapping the sides of trees, trying to get the squirrels to move and give her an opportunity to see it. These hunts can last, you can pull a bird out and you can have a squirrel within 2 minutes. I've been out before and let her up in the trees, started walking through, and she's seen a squirrel, made a beeline for it, caught it, take it to the ground, and we've already got a squirrel in the bag. I've also been out all morning and not seen a thing. Over the 2 seasons that I've hunted with her, she's caught 70 squirrels. 39 the first year and 31 this past year. For every one that we've caught, there's probably 2 or 3 that we chase and she doesn't get, or they'll get into a hole, or she'll get confused. She'll be after one squirrel and there'll be another squirrel run by, and then she doesn't know what to do, so she gets lost and then she can't figure out which one she wants to go get. That's a picture of her the first year. I was lucky on one of the hunts that I got to go on. There was actually a photographer that had heard we were going to be hunting in the area, so he came out and took these great pictures. But that's her as a juvenile. You can see the red bands on her tail. And this is her chasing a squirrel. It's hard to see, but the red arrow is pointing at the squirrel. And she's crashing through the tree trying to get down to it. This is a video I took with my phone, so please, I apologize. It was dark, it was late in the day. But this is her after she's caught a squirrel and she's up in the top of a tree. And she's got the squirrel on her feet, and you'll be able to see it in a minute. It plays through normal speed, and then you can see it in slow motion. As she grabs the squirrel and comes down out of the tree, they'll do something called helicopter. They'll put their wings out, because the squirrel's heavy. A lot of times they can't fly off with it, so they take it down to the ground. Now they might glide 100 yards out into the middle of nowhere, but for the most part, they fall pretty close to where they are. So as you're following her through the woods, you see her when she catches a squirrel, and she'll grab it and take it down to the ground. And then you do what you call a trade-off. She's got the squirrel in her feet. And you go to where she is, and the same thing with the hood. I've got a little hand towel that I carry in my vest, and you cover up the squirrel. And she's still got it in her feet, and once she can't see it anymore, she suddenly thinks, oh, well, there's nothing there. She doesn't have as much tactile feel with her feet as we do, and so she just knows she's standing on something. And then I've got a little piece of meat in my vest, and I'll put it over in the leaves away from her while I'm holding on to the squirrel, and she'll eventually let go of the squirrel and fly over and get the meat. I can put the squirrel in my vest, and then we can go again. We can keep going. Sometimes we'll go out and catch one squirrel. If you're hunting in a group, you hunt one bird at a time. So Dennis and I have hunted several times together, and we might get out and take Piper out first and go through the woods, and if she either catches something or doesn't, then you can put that bird up and get somebody else's bird out and hunt. This is one of the most highly regulated hunting sports in the United States. This is a wild bird. She is not tame. She appears tame because she's calm up here. But at the end of this, either at the beginning of the season or the end of the season, I'm going to let her go. And she will go out and find a mate and be perfectly fine. She's not imprinted on me. She just tolerates me. Because I trapped her in the wild, I'll be able to release her back into the wild. We follow the same hunting seasons as everybody else. In the DNR regulations, squirrel season started early. Well, squirrel season for everybody starts at the end of this month. We get a 15-day grace period, so it started September 15th. But if you hunt rabbits with these, you have to follow the same seasons. This is a family sport. I've been out dozens of times by myself, but I've been out with Noah and Allison and Dennis and 20 other people following these birds through the woods. You don't have to be quiet. The bird's not paying attention to you. They don't care about who all's on the ground. They just want to go get the squirrels or the rabbits or whatever you're chasing that day. And so you can take a large group. I love to take groups to go out and hunt. We don't have any trophies. It's not like deer hunting or turkey hunting where you can get something mounted. I don't have a wall of squirrel heads on my wall. I have pictures. We take a lot of pictures, and we have stories. The scariest thing that's happened with me with her so far, hunting, happened this past year. We were up at Joe Kurt's WMA hunting. There was about 15 people following, 20 people following with us. And it was her time to be up in the trees, and we had seen some squirrels in this area, and it was along the edge of a creek, and pretty wide creek. And she was up in the top of the tree, but nobody saw that she was with any squirrels. We had seen some in some other areas, but nobody had seen any right where she was. We were looking for some. We were all just talking about camping and what we had been doing the night before. And suddenly somebody yells, "She's going across the creek." And so I look up, and she's got a squirrel in her feet. She had had one in the top of the tree, and nobody had seen that she had it. She was about 150 feet up. And she flew across the creek and landed over on the other side. And she had a squirrel, and she had food, and I wasn't anywhere around, and so she had no reason she couldn't eat. So she sat over there and started eating. And I tried to call her, but she had no reason to come back to me. She had what she wanted. So I had to wade across the creek, and it was about 40 degrees that day. It was up over my waist. I had to go across the creek, and then I had to find her because it was really thick, just like it is around here around the river. It's really thick, and there was no paths or anything. And luckily there were some Boy Scouts there with us, and they crossed with me, and we all just separated and started looking for her. And I have been within 5 feet of her and couldn't see her before. She'd get underneath a palmetto bush or something else. So I was terrified that this bird I'd had for a year and a half was gone. Matt Smith, who's here with us, he's another dentist in town. He's an apprentice. He started the year after me. He and I went and trapped a bird last year. He was excited. I got his picture in here in a minute. But he was out in his yard. He had gone through every step in the inside, got his bird outside, and it was just happened to be a really windy day. It was late in the day, and a piece of equipment failed on his creance, and the bird flew right past him and up into a tree. And he looked for it, and I looked for it, but we could never find it. It got away, and he'd had it for about 2.5 weeks. So he was on the way to getting a bird out himself. We also sometimes will catch one squirrel. We've caught. They will go after a fox squirrel. Pipers chase some, but she won't get them. She'll chase after them, and then she realizes it's too big. We have caught as many as 4 squirrels in a day, which for a gun hunter that's nothing, but for us that's like the top of the top to catch 4 in a day. I was going to take a minute to talk about hunters shooting hawks. I've heard of people shooting hawks. I know the red-tailed hawk also has the name of a chicken hawk. They will go in your chicken pen, but they don't want to get your chickens. They're an opportunistic bird. They mostly eat mice, rats, snakes, small things. They'll eat roadkill. Matt saw a bird today, or yesterday, on a piece of roadkill on the side of the road. But if there's a chicken pen and there's a hole and they can get in it and they're hungry, they're going to get in there and get it. I'd rather you call somebody, me or a rehabber or somebody to come get it out. Or if you're hunting turkeys, I know they will go after your little turkeys in the spring, but they're not going to decimate the turkey population on your land. They'll get one and they'll eat, and then the next day they'll go find a mouse and they'll leave the turkeys alone. So the DNR will tell you there's a big fine for it, but aside from that, it's a beautiful animal, and please let them go. If you have any questions, I'm a member of the Georgia Falconry Association. There's a website you can get on. It's got all kinds of links to other things you can look at. My number's in the phone book. I'm in Douglas. And my home number's in the phone book if you need to get in touch with me. But that's also my email address if you have any questions or anybody wants to get in touch with me. Please email me. These are some questions. Let me go through these real quick, and then if anybody else has some questions, I'll open it up. But you can trap these birds. You can buy some from a breeder. If you have a master class falconry license, you can actually climb the tree into the nest and take the babies out a few weeks after they're born. You don't take all the babies, you just take the one and you leave the rest, so you don't mess with the population. But and you can raise it from a baby. But if you do that, then you actually have to go through and train it to hunt, and you have to train it to do all the things that it would learn with its mom. They're not injured. If they are injured when we trap them, these birds are well taken care of. We take them to the vet. You can send off and get DNA testing done. If there's anything gets hurt, you can take them to the vet. Take them to the vet school here or down in Florida. Some people keep these birds. A lot of people ask how long you keep the bird. Some people will catch it this time of the year, hunt with it through the hunting season until March, and then they'll let it go. And then the next fall they catch another bird. I've heard one man I know has kept his bird for 26 years before it died. I don't think he hunted with it the whole time, but he hunted with it the most of that time. In nature, about 75% of these birds don't survive their first winter. They starve, or they freeze, or they get electrocuted. The biggest thing is they get hit by cars. She can read the newspaper across a football field. Her eyes are that good, but they zone in on what they're looking at, and they'll turn off their peripheral vision. They don't look at what's coming from the sides because they're so focused on going in front. And they'll fly out in front of cars, especially at night, because the headlights will show something on the side of the road and they can see it, so then they'll fly down in front of it and get hit. Some other benefits to these birds besides that they're sheltered, they're watched after every day. The veterinarian, we feed them quality food. They eat what they catch. We have a shelf in our freezer that's got squirrels in it, and she eats what she's caught this past season, so I know what she's eating. She's not eating anything that's going to poison her. And I think, and I don't know, I've ever read this, but I think she has some confidence. They don't normally go after squirrels in nature just because it's a bigger animal, it's harder to go after. The mouse on the ground is a lot easier, but after she's caught 70 squirrels and she knows she can do it, I think she's more likely to go out and try for something larger, a squirrel or a rabbit, when I do go and release her. I got into this sport because and on the next slide there's a guy in a kilt at the Highland Games. His name is Smokey. In October of 2006, I was walking around with my parents at Stone Mountain at the Highland Games, and this man had this big bird on his hand. I was intrigued, and I went up and asked him what he did and what kind of bird that was, and he said it was a red-tailed hawk and that he hunts with it. And he invited me to come back up to Noonan a few weeks later, and I went and became addicted. I can tell you about it all night long. I can show you pictures, but you won't understand what it's like until you actually go out in the woods. And Dennis and Matt can tell you this is so addictive. It's more addictive than any other hunting sport I've done. I've hunted turkeys, deer, quail. When you see that bird in action, you just get to watch nature happen right in front of you. When you see that happen, it's incredible. This is a video, and I'm going to walk around while this is playing. There's no sound, but this is a falconer up in North Georgia he's never released a secret on how he does it, but he's got a camera mounted on the hawk's head. And so you can see it from the hawk's point of view as it chases a rabbit and then chases a squirrel. So if anybody has any questions.
There's got to be trap perfect.
We have a trap that's a live trap. It's got an animal, a gerbil or a hamster. She can't get to it, but she thinks she can. You drive down country roads and the back roads until you find a bird up on a power pole. We actually caught piker off of a light pole on Warner Robins, or outside of Warner Robins. But and you put the trap out when you see the bird. You don't leave the trap out for them to get caught on and possibly injured. put the trap out, you drive down the road and turn around and you watch the trap the whole time. Sometimes they'll go to the trap, sometimes they think something's fishy and they'll fly off. But when they fly down, their feet get tangled. And then you go over and you have this wild, scared animal in this trap and you have to get it back off. So. This is Expo. I've had it over here. They're all about this big. When you see them, it's called hogs. Males are a little smaller. All hogs in the head are about this big. They're this big. You see them up on power line. We also have red-shouldered hawks around here. Those are the ones that have the more rusty colored fins. They also have striped tail, red tail, and cream chest. So I can find them as I said, feel free to hang around as long as you like. Take some pictures, because that'd be real cool to show somebody that didn't come tonight what's transpired. Then, ladies and gentlemen, you know, we sportsmen don't every day get good rapport about what we do. But we are the true conservationists. We're the ones that are actually footing the bill for our sport. And just like Dr. Griff said, this is just another segment of hunting. It's all still part of hunting. We had somebody come in the door just a little bit late. I want to recognize right quick, because it's not every day that we have one of our public servants, our politicians, that stand up for us. We have one tonight. Mr. Tyler Harper, will you please stand up? True friend of the sportsman, sitting right there, I promise you. But you want to know why hunting and fishing is important? Just here in the state of Georgia, and these numbers that I'm fixing to share with you are from 2011, but that's the latest data that I have available. But in the state of Georgia, the participants in hunting and fishing is 1,059,000. They spend 17.6 million days hunting and fishing. Spend 2.3 billion with a B dollars. That creates 39,640 jobs in the state of Georgia. Ladies and gentlemen, that's another reason why hunting and fishing is important. Not only is it our God-given right, because if you go back and read our Bibles, God told us to pick up our bow and told us to go forth. But again, economically, we cannot do without hunting and fishing. We all grew up on it.
and it's our responsibility to pass it on to this other generation here. So I challenge you to help us save the habitat and save the hunt by participating in each and every time that you get an opportunity to support any conservation group, not just Turkey Federation that I'm blessed to work with, but any conservation group. If you can join, help us fight the fight, because we're all in it for the same reason. And that way we get our friends right there to be able to represent us, because our numbers are greater, and he's able to get somebody's attention by numbers. They pay a big, again. But again, Georgia Sportsmen and Women's, they spend $6.3 million per day. Those salaries and wages of those jobs equal out to $1.2 billion. Pays $293 million federal taxes. Pays